Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the previous lecture, we have left the topic at, as much I remember, that was something regarding the communication process. So let's talk about the further topics in the business communication. Uh, the very first thing that we need to discuss today is empathy. There are just a few words written over here, and I think they are not enough. So I've just chalked out certain content which needs to be discussed for explaining the empathy regarding the business communication and its relevant processes. So these are some of the topics that we will be discussing today. The very first part is empathy. What empathy itself is. So if you are going to translate, it is something like hamahangi paida karne ki salahiyat, or to able the ability to understand and share the feeling of others is basically the concept of empathy. Or you can say that understand others' point of view is also classified as empathy. The term empathy is used to describe a wide range of experiences. Emotion researchers generally define empathy as the ability to sense other people's emotions, coupled with the ability to imagine what someone else might be thinking or feeling. When you are being empathetic, you are doing more than feeling sorry for another person. You are actually trying to imagine the situation from that person's point of view. Um, some of the synonyms that could be used for this word empathy is like affinity, appreciation, communion, compassion, so on and so forth. So, empathy is feeling with someone. The way the person is being thinking, you try to figure out what he or she is thinking and what are the different perspectives that he might be thinking of, so that you will be able to understand the person's point of view. So you being able to put yourself in their place as if you were them and feeling those feelings, it explains that there are several different elements to make up empathy. As far as the researchers are concerned, they have classified empathy into three different fields, three different branches, you can say that are already written here: uh, cognitive, emotional, and third one is compassionate. So, if we talk about the different kinds of empathy, uh, the psychologists, they figured out, the researchers and the psychologists in the field of psychology, they have figured out that there are three different branches. In fact, there are five different branches, but they classify three of them as most recognizable, and two of them are sort of partial recognized. So, what is cognitive empathy? Cognitive empathy, also known as perspective talking. Perspective taking is basically being able to put yourself into someone else's place and see their perspective. It is a useful skill, particularly in negotiations. For example, for managers, like if a purchasing manager is going to purchase certain objects for the company, then he or she must be able uh, to put himself or herself in the place of those who are selling those objects, so that he or she will be able to identify what are the minimum benefits that could be transferred to them, so that they would be able, or they are willing and able to sell that product to the company. So it enables you to put yourself in someone else's place, but without necessarily engaging with their emotions. It does not, however, really fit in the definition of empathy as feeling with being much more rational and logical process. Then let's move towards the emotional empathy. Um, Emotional empathy is when you feel something because someone else does. This is emotional empathy. You may have noticed that this when you cried watching a very sad scene in a movie, or you just jubilate while watching a match. Like if someone from your countryside, they have they have scored runs or they have taken wickets, then it's something to cheer for. So that's emotional empathy. Emotional empathy is when you quite literally feel the other person's emotions alongside them, as if you had caught the emotions. Emotional empathy is also known as personal distress or emotional contagion. This is closer to the usual understanding of the word empathy, but more emotional. Emotional empathy can be classified as either as a good or as a bad. Emotional empathy is good because it means that we can readily understand and feel other people's emotions. This is vital for those in caring professions such as doctors and nurses to be able to respond to their patients appropriately. It also means that we can respond to friends and others when they are in distress. Emotional empathy is bad as well, because it is possible to become overwhelmed with those emotions and therefore unable to respond. This is known as empathy overload. Those with a tendency to become overwhelmed need to work on their self regulation and particularly self control so that they become better able to manage their own emotions. Now, let's move to the third one, the compassionate empathy. Uh, Compassionate empathy is what we usually understand by empathy, feeling someone's pain and taking action to help. So it's more formal in a way that you are willing to perform certain actions on the concept of the empathy. uh, this is any kind of empathy that leads to the action, or when you see someone in need and offer that person some food or money, that is compassionate empathy. uh, the name compassionate empathy is consistent with what we usually understand by compassion. Like sympathy, compassion is about feeling concern for someone, but with an additional move towards action to mitigate the issue. Uh, Finally, let's talk about the rest of the two, which are not so much recognized among the empathy branches. So that is somatic empathy. Uh, Somatic empathy is defined as feeling someone else pain physically. For example, if you see someone hurt, you too might feel physical pain. Like identical twins, sometimes report that they have that they know when the other one is being hurt or is being hit by a certain object, or they feel the pains simultaneously, which might be an example of somatic empathy. You can see an echo of somatic empathy. For example, if someone is hit in the stomach with a ball during a sports game, and one on excuse me, I've got a call. So I was discussing regarding the example of somatic empathy. Like if someone, like if you are traveling alongside the road and there are different persons who are traveling or the bike, and one of them got slapped due to any of the reasons, you might feel the same. Like, you know how hard it is to bear that pain when someone physically stucks the road while driving motorcycle or so and so forth, something like that. Now the last one is a spiritual empathy, and it is defined as a direct connection with a higher being or consciousness. It is the same as enlightenment in the Eastern philosophical tradition and considered to be achieved through meditation. Uh, Now let's talk about some of the attributes of the empathy. They are, let me read out. Here they are. Uh, Perspective talking, Perspective taking, stay out of judgment, recognize the emotions, and communication. Let me define each of them. Uh, the very first one is perspective taking. It refers to walking in the other person's shoes and trying to think like them. Like if you're putting yourself in their place and trying to think about the situation in which they are currently in, and you are trying to figure out what they are thinking. So that's perspective taking. uh, Number two is staying out of judgment, means not making comments that infer the emotions or response was invalid or wrong, such as that was stupid thing. What did you get so upset? So something like that. If you say something like that, you're passing a judgment, and you need not to pass a judgment. Third one is recognizing the emotions, is looking within yourself and identifying that feelings, that feeling the other person could be feeling. It's okay to check it out with them. Ask if you've got it. For example, you could say, "Sounds like you are feeling sad," or you could say something like, like it looks like you've bought a new car and you look like you're jubilating for it. So you try to recognize the emotions in which the person is currently in. uh, Last one is communication refers to being expressive about understanding the emotions and validating them too. So what could be uh now let's talk about the last three things. How can you show empathy? It's moving too fast. The cursor is moving too fast. So how can you show empathy? Let me talk about some of the examples of empathetic responses. Number one, like something, acknowledge their pain, something like perhaps that the best thing you can do is to acknowledge how the other person feels. Is um I know how does it feels, but just please calm down, something like that. If you say something, you are acknowledging their pain. um Number next, you can share your feelings, like I'm very grateful for what you have brought to me, but it's not like the tradition of Eastern culture to accept these things, sort of thing. So show gratitude that the person is opened up. Show your interest. Uh, be encouraging to the persons, uh, and you have to be supportive to the other one. And that's how you can show empathy. So, how do you express empathy in text? Let's suppose if you're writing something and you want to express empathy, then you can write some wording, something like that. Things are tough right now, but I'm here to help you out. That's an inspirational empathy wordings, set of words that can inspire the other person. Something like that. I understand how hard this is for you, but things has to happen this way. Whoever has come in the world has to go out, something like that. So whatever you're saying makes so much sense to me, but things has to be taken the other way, something like that. So you are showing empathy. I hear what you're saying. So that's how it works. And how to speak, uh, like if you want to show empathy to other persons, you have to focus on the other person. The very first thing is you have to focus on the perspective of the other person, what the other person is thinking, and what are the different perspective regarding which he or she might be interested in. So you have to shift your focus on the other person. Help the person feel heard, and show them that you are listening to them. And you have to create a connection between you and them by putting appropriate words like go on please, I'm listening to you. It's nice to see you here, and you are doing the great and wonderful job regarding this thing, so and so forth. uh, Acknowledge the other person's point of view and learn more by asking clarifying questions, and do not give advice while you are asking questions. So that's how you can acknowledge and you can speak for the empathy towards the other person. You can increase the understanding by dialogue, and you can invite the speaker to continue. So that's how the empathy works on. So these are some of the many things that we have to discuss regarding the empathy. There's just a single word here, and there are just three lines regarding which I've explained. I have discussed uh, this entire topic set, that empathy, what empathy is, what are the different kinds of the empathy, and uh, like what are the different attributes and how you can show empathy, and how you can express in text, and how you can speak for the empathy, sort of thing. So let's move towards the next thing. And next thing is that's written over here is vertical communication and horizontal communication. So before we move towards the horizontal vertical communication, let's talk about the organogram or the organizational hierarchy. So let's move towards the other page. That's the organizational chart or the organogram. uh, so what it is, the very first thing, what it is. So we need to clarify what is an organizational chart or what is an organogram. Organogram is a single word for the concept of organizational hierarchy or the organizational chart. Organizations are being structured into um, different forms. So you can say some of them are hierarchical in nature, some of them are flat in nature, some of them are matrix based. So most of the organization are based on hierarchical chain of command. So an organizational chart that we usually call as organogram is a diagram that shows the structure of an organization and the relationships and relative ranks of its parts and positions, that is the jobs within the organization. uh, the organizational chart is a diagram showing graphically the relation of let me reiterate. Organizational chart is basically a diagrammatic representation that simply represents the formation of the linkage of different departments and different cadres and different job positions within the organization. That shows the relation of one official to another or other department within the company. It is also used to show the relation of one department to another and one function of an organization to another as well. The organogram or the organizational chart is valuable in that it enables to visualize a complete organization on a single paper. You can say that. Uh, a company's organizational chart typically illustrates the relationship between people within organizations. Such relations might include managers to sub workers, like board of directors to the chief operating officer, and chief executive officer, directors to the managing director, and chief executive to various departments and as well. So, and this carries on to the last of the chain of command. So when an organization chart grows too large, it can be split into smaller charts by separate departments within the organization. So if you look at this figure that's being represented here, so the red component is basically the person or the job position who is in charge of all the department or is responsible for getting all things done at the most superior level. And when you move towards these yellow blocks, these are two of the persons who are responsible, or you can say they are head of the departments of two separate sections. And further in the sea green or sea blue sort of thing, these four are the persons who are responding to their corresponding yellow uh, um, yellow color based representatives on the job position to whom they have to respond. And so this is basically a sample organization chart with three tiers, and this is just a sample because there are not three tiers in any organization. In case we are talking about a large organization, they are having multiple tiers, like they are having 10 to 15 tiers for controlling the organizational operations. So why we have discussed this thing? We have discussed this organogram or the organizational chart because we have to discuss the vertical and the horizontal communication. Vertical communication, what it is. So there are different types of the communication that occurs within the organization, and I have listed out all of them. And after that, we will discuss. Like, let me show you. These are the horizontal. These are the horizontal and vertical communication, different perspectives, and the differences that we are going to discuss in the next few minutes. So let's talk about vertical communication. Vertical communication is type of flow of information between members of the organization who are on different levels of the hierarchy. It can be used both in downward and upward direction. Vertical communication takes into account organizational structure, and it doesn't allow to pass information in the other way. That is, you cannot omit the supervisors or the person who is directly in the chain of command. So you cannot bypass them. So most communication in organization are considered to be vertical. And vertical communication is that flows up and down in the organization, usually along the chain of command or formal reporting lines. It takes between managers and their supervisors and their coordinators or the subordinates, you can say as well. Vertical communication could either be downward in the hierarchy or it can be upward. So let's talk about downward communication. Both of the downward and the upward communication lies within the vertical communication phase. So in downward communication, uh, the message in this kind of vertical communication, a message is sent downwards from higher to lower levels. The transmitted information can be, for example, directives of the chief executive, for example, or the instructions or certain objectives that are being passed to the subordinates within the hierarchy. Literature shows that to make it most effective, top managers should communicate directly with immediate supervisors, and immediate supervisors then communicate with their staff, and this goes on until the last level within the hierarchy. There are basically few main purposes for the downward communication. Some of them are, let's discuss the few of them. Number one is to implement goals and strategies. Introducing new strategies and objectives gives lower level information about preferred actions. Number two, to provide job instructions, informing members about requirements on the respective tasks that are being assigned to them. You can say there are different JICs, JICS, job identification cards, which are being provided, and there are different instructions which are being provided to them regarding their JICs. Uh, Number three is to explain procedures, defining organizations' base rules and regulations so that anyone may not overrule those things. Point number four, to give feedback, evaluating work of both individuals or the groups or different person within the hierarchy. The manager gives the feedback that you are working well or that you are not working well, so on and so forth. And the last one, the fifth one is to socialize. That is encouraging the staff members to get to know and adopt institutions' values. Downward communication is the most frequently used way of transferring information in organizations. So let's finish this thing off and let's discuss the upward communication. Uh, it is again, it lies within the vertical communication phase, and information moving from lower level employees to higher level employees is upward communication. For example, upward communication occurs when workers report to a supervisor or when a team leader reports to the departmental manager. Items typically communicated upward include progress reports, proposals for the projects that are being assigned to different people within the hierarchy, like the other things like budget estimates, they are being provided upwards, grievances and complaints, so on and so forth. All these things are being provided towards up in the hierarchy. Uh, so sometimes a downward communication also prompts an upward response, such as when a manager asks for a recommendation for replacement part or an estimate when a project will be completed. The response will be obviously communicated back up in the hierarchy. That's upward communication. An important goal of many managers today is to encourage spontaneous or voluntary upward communication from employees without the need to ask them first. So some companies has defined certain rules that after a certain period of time, the person who are working in the hierarchy, they have to respond back to the managers or more further up in the hierarchy, so that they could be heard, and the problems or the issues that are being faced in the runtime in the execution environment, the upper management may have a clue regarding them. So some companies go so far as to organize contests and provide prizes for the most innovative and creative solutions and suggestions. Some organizations have even installed whistleblower hotlines that will let employees report dangerous, unethical, or even illegal activities anonymously to avoid possible retaliation by higher ups in the company. So let's conclude this thing. Let's move towards the horizontal communication. The term horizontal communication can interchangeably can be used with the lateral communication. So horizontal communication is communication among people at parallel or same level, you can say position or rank or status people of the organization, people having same status within the organization, like manager sales and manager marketing and the manager purchase, they are having same managerial position, so they lie at the same position or the same rank. So horizontal communication is the communication that flows laterally within the organization, involve persons at the same level of the organization. Horizontal communication normally involves coordinating information and allows people with the same or similar rank in the organization to cooperate and collaborate. Horizontal communication involves the exchange of information across departments at the same level. That is, you can also call it a peer-to-peer communication. The purpose of the most horizontal communication is to request support or coordinate activities. uh, People at the same level in the organization can work together to work on problems or issues in an informal and as need basis. Like if there is a project that's being assigned to certain people, like you have to manufacture something, then the person who is responsible as a manager in the factory, he or she will have to coordinate with the purchase department manager purchase, and that person might not be at the same location. So they have to communicate, and whenever they are lying at the same level, this is classified as peer-to-peer communication. So horizontal communication is also classified as peer-to-peer communication and lateral communication as well. So um, the purchase manager in return may ask the accounts department, the manager of the accounts department, how much budget is available for the purchase of the content that's being requested by the manager at the factory. So that's how it works. So let me give you another example. For example, the manager of the production department can work with the purchasing manager, this thing and um, the other example might be communication between two employees who report to the same manager is also an example of horizontal communication. Some problems with horizontal communication can arise if one manager is unwilling, or he or she is not being motivated to share information, or sees efforts to work communally as threatening his or her position. That's more classified as territorial behavior. The people who are not interested in sharing their information regarding their departments, or something that they need to control by themselves, they do not want to relinquish the commanding position. So that's what we call territorial behavior. So in cases like that, the manager at the next level, in the next level upward in the hierarchy, needs to communicate downward to reinforce the company's values of for the corporation and getting the work done. So let's conclude this and move towards the third one, that is the diagonal communication. Diagonal communication is cross-functional communication between employees at different levels of the organization, and they do not lie in the same line of command. That is, a person from another department may request information from another person in another department who is either up in the hierarchy or down in the hierarchy as compared to the person who is requesting for the content to be shared. So, for example, if a sales representative emails the vice president of the marketing, then the diagonal communication has occurred. So, whenever communication goes from one department to another, the sender's manager should be made part of the loop. Um, because a manager may be put in an embarrassing position and appear incompetent if he or she is not being able uh, to get himself or herself aware regarding the situation, or aware of everything that's happening in the department. So trust may be lost, and because of that, the carriers may get damaged, because if the manager who is in the chain of the command and responsible for getting the things done, and you have crossed the person, and you have coordinated with the another person in the other department, and that thing is being responded back to your manager, then the carriers may get damaged as well, because that person might not think that's a good thing to bypass him or her um, um, up in the hierarchy. So uh, now let's move towards the this thing. That's the different bases and the differences between the horizontal and the vertical communication. Uh, Number one is the purpose. The basic purpose of the horizontal communication is to coordinate the activities of various departments and divisions of the organization to get a single task done. For example, as I have told you, that if the manager in the purchase department, he or she will act to the request of the manager of the factory. So that's a single task for manufacturing, and there are two different people at two different departments who need to work out this thing. So the main purpose of this horizontal communication is to uh, coordinate the activity. Now let's talk about the vertical communication. The main purpose of the vertical communication is to provide orders, instructions, advices from top to bottom, feedbacks, opinions, and suggestions from down to upwards. So that's how things are being done. So if we talk about the information flow, the in horizontal communication, information or messages flows between same level and same status people, whereas in vertical communication, information and messages flow between subordinates and superiors, upwards and downwards. Media in horizontal communication, usually in organizations, in formal environment, everything is written. So whatever you have to do, you write a specific memorandum, or you write a specific office order, or whatever the relevant document is, you write it and you send it to the relevant department in the horizontal communication. But in most of the cases, in non-formal environments, in the informal environments, the method used is being oral. And vertical communication, because there are different instructions and there are different orders, so they are 100%, they are in written form. uh, let's talk about distortion. Uh, the horizontal communication, because the people are lying at the same level, or they are having same status, so most of the messages do not get distorted, uh, because the people feel comfortable while sharing their ideas, and if there is an ambiguity, they just talk to each other. So there is a very little chance of distortion. And if we talk about the vertical communication, the distortion of the message is a high possibility, because if you ask someone that you have to come on the holiday and you have to work on these things, and then the person may say that he or she he hasn't received the office order that he or she has to come on the during the holidays period. So there's a possibility of distortion of the message. uh, Formality. Usually, the horizontal communication, there is non-formal environment, and it is basically informal relationship. Whereas in the vertical communication, it is a formal relationship. Length of the information flow is between sender and receiver is short and horizontal, uh, because of the same level of chain of command, and they are having same job status sort of thing. So the length of the information flow is not too high. That's directly from person to person. Whereas length of information flow in vertical communication, it's between sender and receiver, may be long, because the chief executive may have passed the orders, and that order will be shifted to the chief operating officer, then to the organizational branch head, and then towards the manager, and then towards the corresponding person. So that will take a while. uh, so it's lengthy, it could be lengthy, depends upon the nature and the people who are being contacted in the vertical communication. The method of the communication, in horizontal communication, it's mostly done through oral media, because uh, to get the things done on early basis, you request that kindly do something for me and do send that content which I've requested in the previous order. Kindly send it as soon as possible. So it's usually sort of thing that it's informal, and it's basically oral in nature. Whereas in the vertical communication, uh, uh, the method of communication is usually in the written form. And these are some of the differences that we have to discuss. So let me stop this video here, so that it may not get lengthy, and I'll continue the next topic in the next video.